Hey, Hope community and friends, this is Pastor Nathan again with just some midweek reflections on now the 6th week of social isolation. First, I have a verse for you, and this will be one of the verses that I'll be preaching on this coming Sunday at our Facebook Live worship at 9:30. It's from Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 6. We can confidently say, "The Lord is my helper, I will not fear. What can man do to me?" So I was just thinking about that, and also about last Sunday. I told a story about my Uncle Gil in the introduction to the sermon, and so I just started thinking about Uncle Gil. And I've got a picture, if you didn't see the sermon, or you couldn't see the visual. So there's Uncle Gil, and this is Hopalong Cassidy, and that's him holding him up. And this is the front four of the Detroit Lions, I think in like 1960 maybe. Alex Karras, some of you may have heard of, Bill Glass, and then left defensive end is Gil Maines. So anyhow, the story I was thinking of, one other thing, in the message I didn't mention, he was drafted, I said, in the 20th round, number 8 pick. Well, he had to go and do his National Guard duty for 2 years. So he actually didn't report to the team for 2 years. So he started at 24 instead of 22. And then, so it was even more amazing that he made the team, having had the 2 years away from football and sports and doing his military duty. So anyhow, years later, after he was out of football, he tore up his knee playing against the San Francisco 49ers at Candlestick Park. And that ended his career in 1961. And years later, he had like multiple surgeries, and he had his knee replaced and got infected. He lived in Sylvania, Ohio. And they had to take the joint out. And he was confined to his home, and they had antibiotic beads, so just little like beads of antibiotics in his knee, and he couldn't walk. He was basically incapacitated. And what it reminded me of is for many people, they're socially isolated now. Some of us get to have someone with us, like I get to have Jeannie, which is great. But some of you are alone and feeling isolated, and many of you, even if you have some people in your house, are feeling like more isolated than usual. Well, anyhow, back in the day, we used to homeschool our girls, and so I did what I call day off day, which was for me it was Friday, and I basically told Jeannie she could have do whatever she wants for 6 hours or whatever, and I would just take the girls and do some teaching with them and do some stuff. So anyhow, on this particular Friday, the idea came to me to take the 2 girls down and visit Uncle Gil down in Sylvania, Ohio, which is just outside of Toledo. And so he's there at home. You know, he can't move around because he's got his leg all packed up with those antibiotic beads. And so we went down and spent the afternoon together. And he had been kind of one of those guys who would always like give you little digs and stuff. And he used to give us a hard time about homeschooling our girls and what was going to happen to them. You know, they'd be socially inept or whatever. And yeah, one of them has a doctorate now. So anyhow, when we were down there, we just talked. They played backgammon with him. And from that day forward, they could do no wrong. They were like the greatest of his nieces, you know, not better than the other ones, but he just thought the world of them just because of them spending time with him and thinking of him and doing things with him. And I was just thinking, during this time, in an unprecedented way, we are separated from one another. But even when we're not, often we don't pay attention. We don't think about people. We don't wonder how they're doing. We don't check in with them. We don't go down. I know we can't go down and visit them for the afternoon like we did with Gil, but we could call, we could text, we can do FaceTime or send them a video, do something creative. And I just wanted to encourage you and me to be thinking about relationships and people and the things that really matter eternally. And so just so excited this week to be able to reflect on my Uncle Gil and just the amazing man that he was, but also that day that Elizabeth and Rebecca and I were able to spend the afternoon with him and really connect with him as a human being and just encourage him when no one else was around. I think my aunt, obviously my Aunt Dolores was there helping him and whatever, but I think she had something that she was doing that afternoon. So it was just the three of us with him, and we just hung out and spent the afternoon. And it was a really, really good memory. So don't forget, we have Facebook worship at 9:30 on Sundays. Look forward to seeing you then. See you later.